96.3 FM, The Source.
I don't think the 13th, Friday the 13th is really an unlucky day. I think it's a coincidence day. Today, later on at 10:05, the Honorable Cliff Stearns will be in the studio. Used to be your congressman, many of you anyway, for District 3. And now we have a young man in the studio who wants to also represent you for District 3. He is Judson Sapp. He is a writer, a member of the Screen Actors Guild. Whoa, that's kind of cool. The CEO of the W.J. Sapp & Son Incorporated, worked for State Representative John Thrasher and the United States Senator Connie Mack, also a good friend of the station, by the way. He's a Republican candidate for U.S. Congress, Florida Congressional District 3. And good morning, Judson. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, you are. Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming in. So how did you go from an interest in movies to Congress? How did that happen?
Well, I started in college working for some politicians, actually in high school working for politicians, so I've always had an interest in it. And when I was out of college, I started working for my family's company, learning the railroad business, and then I decided to go on and pursue my own thing for a while, and that's why I moved to LA and became a writer and did some acting and things like that. But I always knew that I wanted to have a family back in Florida. It's a more family-friendly state. I wanted to get back to my hometown, and my family needed me, so my wife and I moved back, and I just got fed up. That's why I got back. Why I decided to run.
Is that right? I want to ask you about that, but I just want to comment on something.
Sure.
I think somebody who has a little bit of showbiz skills, not to say showbiz and Congress is the same thing, but I think it gives you a better command of the language. And that's important because a lot of times I've seen good candidates. Robin and I were judges one time at a panel for candidates. And these guys were so great and so nice, but when the camera went on, they clammed up, and I said, "Oh my gosh, the viewers aren't getting a real view of what these guys are like." So, obviously, you have already demonstrated a comfort zone with just doing this. So, that's probably from what you did before.
Well, it probably does have a lot to do with it. The background has a lot to do with everything in life.
And I think how that serves us is when you are in Congress, you're talking to your fellow congressmen and stuff. You'll be able to articulate things in a more commanding way.
Well, that's the goal. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Tell us why you want to be a congressman.
Well, I'm a Republican, and I got behind Trump, and I wanted to get him elected, and he did get elected, and I thought that a lot of Congress made promises that they would follow his agenda and get him done, and then he did get elected, and they've pretty much only done tax reform. And I feel like there's a philosophy up there going on of saying, well, it's not a good enough deal, so I'm not going to take it. I'd rather take no deal than a good enough deal. Well, I'll take a good enough deal, and then I'll go back the next session and make it better. That's the difference between me and a large majority. Yeah, a large majority of Congress just isn't doing that.
Well, and that's negotiating skills, too.
Yes.
It's something Donald Trump has. For all the negative things that people who don't like him will say, it's hard to contest. And why do we think that Kim Jong-un maybe changed his mind? Little negotiating skills. Why is China changing their mind now? Because he said, you know what, we're going to have some tariffs. And they said, well, you know what, we are too. And now look what's happening. They're negotiating.
Exactly. You have to be willing to negotiate.
How can the opponents not see that's what's happening?
I really, it boggles my mind, and I think that's why I got fed up. And my dad gave me some great advice because I was working with helping fundraise for candidates and things like that. And he said, either you need to get over it and stop listening to news and just get out of politics, or you should do something about it. And he said, you've had a career path and the means to do it, so either do it or don't.
Wow.
So I took his advice, and I said, I've got a 8-month-old and a 3-month-old, and 3-year-old and an 8-month-old, and I don't think there will be a Republican Party in the future if we keep this cycle going on of getting elected, getting a majority, and then doing nothing with it. And so I said, I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah. What is your thoughts on the divide in Congress between Democrats and Republicans? I think we're all sick of it.
I think we are too.
What do you think?
Well, that's part of my platform of being a new Republican. I have some policy issues that aren't exactly the normal Republican policy issues. Most of mine are, but like net neutrality, I think we're wrong on that just because I think it's a monopoly issue. If I had a choice of 5 high-speed internet in my hometown, I'd say it's not an issue. I have one choice of high-speed internet. That's a monopoly. They should have some responsibility of utilities.
Yeah. I think
so
you're right.
There's issues where you can start to work across the lines and say, hey, just because we don't agree on the big stuff, we can't start with the small stuff. And once you start with the small stuff, then you start to find common ground on bigger things.
How would you talk to the 17-year-olds that want us to do away with the Second Amendment? I think their heart wants to see, they think that's the right way to do it. How would you explain to them it's not a good idea?
Well, I go back to that thought process of what scares me most is government and a tyrannical government.
Absolutely.
And that's why the Second Amendment is so important. You don't want to give up your constitutional rights to make yourself safer. It's a tough sell. I know that. It's emotional. But there's other ways we can do it. We can address mental health reform. We can make our schools safer. We don't have to give up constitutional rights for safety. And that's what. And I think there are young people that realize that. Unfortunately, their voices are being drowned out too.
Absolutely, yes. You're right on target with that one too. Yeah, in fact, the kid who got shot 5 times down in Parkland and is now doing better, thank God.
Yes.
But he's pretty much being silenced because he feels like we need that Second Amendment. He understands it. Yes. Which is weird that we don't hear from him. Just a few trickles here and there.
Well, and it boggles my mind that you have the one right that allows you to actually stop people from taking away your rights, and that's the right you want to get rid of.
Yeah. Lower taxes and less government. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think especially with tax day coming up, you should look around your district and your local communities and say, are you happy with how your tax dollars are being spent? If you are, then sure, write a little extra to the government. I'm not too happy. I think we have to have taxes. There's no doubt about that because there's things we have to do as a government, but they could do better, and they need a balanced budget. I mean, I heard you talking about that earlier, and they really need to do at least the state of Florida has one. I'd like to see that for the federal government also.
Give us maybe an example of something you would like to cut.
That's a great question. You could, well, I would do this. Let me do a broader there. Across the board, I would make every place in every committee, every group, say what is a 10% reduction of your budget you could do. Because I know in my company, and I've had to do it because of the Obama years of high regulations, and it got really tough for railroad construction industry. What's a 10% reduction in your budget that you can offer? And force all of them to do that. Now, you might not take it, but if you force them to do that every year, they'll start to even realize, like, I could do it, and they can. I mean, there's across the board, you can make cuts, but you have to be willing to, first of all, put it forward of, these are the hard choices I would make as my department head, and then we go from there and say, this is the choices you'd like. Let's pick this one, and let's make that happen.
I think the government should be transparent. I think every voter should have a right to go on a website and say how much did they spend for their pencils.
Yep.
And everything more expensive than a pencil, because then the people will say, why are you spending money on a trip to Fisher Island?
Yes.
That's the most expensive place to live right now, by the way, in the country. All right. Talk to me a little about education. What are your thoughts on that? And if you could answer the question from the federal point of view, because I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I think we all realize that Common Core is a disaster. And it's such an easy talking point, you almost hate to throw it out there, but it is. And how do we solve that? Well, I'm lucky for one thing. I have Jim Horn, who was former Secretary of Education, advising me on education issues. So I have a good talking point of he's giving me advice on how to do that. But you have to, first of all, provide a safe environment for kids to learn in. You have to,
yes.
Because if they're not feeling safe, they're not going to want to learn.
I know.
And it solves other issues. Yeah. But school choice is another way to solve the problem. Because if you make schools compete, you're going to make the other schools get better. And you can't do that with just a test that says, oh, if we pass this test, it's going to...
Should that come from the federal level?
It shouldn't. No, it should come from the state level first and foremost. I think we can set broad guidelines and give it that way, but it has to come down to the state because the state knows its schools the best and what needs to come down to them.
I think, Judson, that if there may be a school district or there may be... Stop. There may be something, someplace where Common Core is what is wanted. You know what I mean? And if that district wants it, then I guess we shouldn't say no. I think they should allow to have it.
I think if they want it on a local level, again, I'm for more local government. I would say, well, that's if you want to make that mistake, and if it ends up working for them, and that's why it has to be on the state level. That's why our country's set up that way, because sometimes something works in Alaska that doesn't work in Florida.
One of your talking points is right to life. We probably agree on this one. Tell me your thoughts on this one.
Well, I fundamentally believe in a right to life, and I I've got small children, so it's really hard for me to fathom not with that. And I'm very respectful for people on the other side of the issue and maybe why they view that way, but I can't fathom it. And to me, it goes more, we can't just have a child and then say, well, now you're in the world. Tough. I think that we really should take care of our young children, at least until an age when they can actually go provide for themselves. Because if you have the unfortunate, are born into bad circumstances, you should not have to suffer as a child.
Okay, I'm sure that's a longer conversation.
It's very longer than I'm allowed to have
time for. Yeah. Border security and immigration. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, again, a bunch of people ran on building a wall, and I agree with that. I think we should, because I think a secure border is just great for us across the board. I don't understand why we haven't done it. We should have. We should have had a number of issues already done. We should have had infrastructure done. We got taxes. We should have had border security already addressed this last session. But I think you could even pay for it by, let's punish the sanctuary cities. Let's cut their federal funding until they get on board with the federal government and start using that money to pay for the wall.
I think we should do something about the employers that make it worthwhile to come over illegally. I think the wall can be crossed with an airplane, a boat, anything. But I think if we make it less desirable to come over, or more desirable to just do it the right way.
Do it the right way. There's the trick.
Just do it the right way. Healthcare reform. Okay, this is one that's kind of in the works already. You know, I was surprised. I was surprised when I did my taxes, and I had thought that the president signed something before New Year's for the very purpose of undoing some of this. But yet, when I filed my taxes, I still had to report my health insurance.
It's funny how that is, isn't it?
What happened?
You think
there?
something's going on? I don't know, and that's why I'd like to get up there to fix it. It's a big deal. Our health care, my premiums have gone up. I was told that nothing would change.
Yeah, right.
Well, they now want to take away birthing, and my wife and I want to have one more child, and they're like, oh, well, you can have it, but I think it's a $20,000 deductible before it even kicks in.
No, you're kidding.
It's ridiculous. My premiums have gone up every year. It's been a nightmare, and there are things that the government should have done by now. They had a bill up there, and again, it was only 80% good. Well, that was still better than what we have now.
You know, and government regulating private industry has always been something I've not liked, but I think maybe sometimes, like for example, the airline industry, we sort of have to have somebody overseeing that. And I think it's come to the point where the insurance industry has to be overseen. I think they got out of control. Every building in New York City has the name of an insurance company on it.
They sure do.
It used to say Pan Am. Now it says MetLife. What the heck?
Yeah, it's gotten out of hand, and that's the problem. Is government should be like a referee in a game. Don't throw the flags unless you have to, but when you need to throw the flag, throw the flag.
I like your answers. Trying to find something I disagree with.
Real quick, if you don't mind, because we're talking about Friday the 13th. Today is my 5th wedding anniversary, so I just wanted to say, love you, Kelly. So happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
That's
to
my
both
wife.
of you. I figured that.
I would hope.
Well, overall, I'm just real happy to hear your answers, Judson. And you said Cliff Stearns is advising you?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to have some great former politicians advising me on my campaign, because I've never run for office before, but I have run a business, and I know what you do is bring in people that have done it before and get their advice of people you trust. That's what I do. I hire lieutenants under me that know the job better than me.
You couldn't have said the better thing. The people you trust, to me, is everything. You may not agree, but as long as you trust, you know what I mean?
Yes.
This stupid idiot guy that's advertising right now, this Freedom Checks guy, oh my gosh, it's just under my skin. Don't invest in him. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing this with us. Do you have a website set up?
Yes, it's judsonsapp.com, JUDSONSAPP.com.
Judson Sapp.
Find out all of us. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter there.
All right. Well, when you get elected, can I ask you a favor?
Sure.
Can you invite us up to your office?
I sure will.
I have never gone. Cliff Stearns invited us more than once. And I said to Robin when he retired, I said, oh, man, we never got
That's
up
the
to
thing you'll regret when you should take them up on
I just
it when
want
they
to
offer.
see the view from the window. You have a nice window, right?
I'm sure as a freshman congressman, mine won't be that nice of a view, but
Oh, should I wait until you're there a few years?
I'll try to get you into an office with a good view.
Identify the gentleman at the end of the table.
I'm very lucky. My deputy campaign manager, I have two. One of them's here with me today is Brandon Green, and he's just an amazing deputy campaign manager.
All right.
I've known a long time and brought him in for this campaign, and he was excited to come work for me.
He's got a good job waiting for him when you get elected?
Let's hope so. I hope we'll take it.
Hear that? Don't invest in the other guy. Invest in this guy. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Judson. That was fun.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, we will take a little break. We'll be right back. We have news bites coming up. I took some of that time, but I wanted to get some good answers here. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Mostly sunny today, a nice day with highs of 85 to 87. Tonight will be clear with lows of 64 to 67. Partly sunny tomorrow, high 88 to 90. Some sun followed by clouds and an afternoon shower or thunderstorm on Sunday, highs of 85 to 88. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Heather Zayers.
Ready for a caring and compassionate career? Home Instead Senior Care is looking